I have an issue with my boyfriend's friend Annie. Should I address this to him? I am a 34-year-old woman who has been dating a 43-year-old guy that I really like for about 6 months, and he says he likes me too. However, there are a few things that have been bothering me lately. First, he had promised to take me to his favorite hiking spot the next time he went. But when that time came, he chose to bring his friend Annie instead. On top of that, he completely forgot about the plans we had made for an ice cream and walk date, which we had postponed from the night before because he was busy with his plants. Although I was a bit upset about both of these things, I decided to make plans with my buddy, whom I hadn't seen in forever. My buddy took me for a walk and ice cream, allowing me to vent about everything. I may have snapped at my boyfriend and been very short with him, and I let him know it too. My going out with my buddy seemed to be an issue for him, and when we argued on the phone, Annie chimed in with a very rude, "What is her problem?" He didn't realize he hadn't properly hung up the phone, so I heard him complaining about me, with her making comments back. Annie even asked me for help with her legal stuff later, but now I don't want to acknowledge her existence. I tried to make the best of my day despite everything, but she called afterward with a sweet tone, pretending to be concerned. Second, my boyfriend went through a funk where he couldn't get out of bed for 3-4 days. I was working on 2 of those days, but I tried everything to get him moving. When he finally got up, instead of suggesting we hang out since we had cancelled a few things over the weekend, he ran off to help Annie with something. Every time I asked if there was anything I could do or what was wrong, he would just say, "I don't know," and then snap at me. Third, I haven't been feeling well because the medication my doctor prescribed for a medical condition, PCOS, has suppressed my appetite. I think I also caught a stomach bug, which has left me lethargic and monotone because I have no energy. My boyfriend said he can't deal with this right now, but I never walked away from him when he was going through something. I didn't fully communicate everything to him because he had already accused me of being hormonal from my birth control, which I was, but his accusatory tone made me feel like I was wrong for it. Does it seem like my boyfriend is in a relationship with Annie? Your boyfriend's behavior of cancelling plans with you for Annie and letting her interfere in your arguments could be a red flag. It's important to assess whether this is a pattern or isolated incidents. This relationship is only 6 months old and there's a lot of drama centering around Annie. You can do better than this guy. My partner threatened to break up with me and I cannot feel emotionally connected to them since. Is there coming back from this? We've been together for a little less than 4 years and living together for 3. I always thought this relationship was great. We're best friends and often told each other how lucky we were to experience our relationship. Of course, we had our differences, which I guess are quite common in straight couples. He was messier and didn't contribute much to house chores, while I wanted to spend more time outside doing things in our free time, whereas he preferred to rest more. However, the chore issue did affect my sex drive. At first, I didn't know what it was. It might have been the novelty of our relationship wearing off, but I didn't want to have sex as much. I never rejected him, but stopped initiating as much, although I wasn't much of an initiator before either. I also had a period where I felt really stressed out from work and was afraid of being laid off, so I guess I was a little more irritable, which he didn't like. As for my lack of sex drive, I tried to find solutions. I told him I noticed we were struggling in that department and that we needed to go on dates more, schedule sex, and put in more effort. We agreed to work towards it. Fast forward to a random day, my boyfriend completely blew up on me. He suddenly listed all my mistakes in the relationship, saying he didn't feel loved anymore, that I never initiated sex, all I did was nag him, and that I wanted to change him. One of the most hurtful things he said was that the only benefit he got from dating me was that I cooked for him. This really took me by surprise. While I was aware we had issues, I always thought they were things we discussed and working on. We were fine a day before the fight. We were affectionate and emotionally intimate. After the fight, he left for work the next morning. When we woke up, I was crying again, begging him for explanations and clarity. He said there was no going back and went to work. I took the day off and was devastated. He texted me to apologize an hour later, saying he had been crying at work and that it was his fault for starting the fight. When he came back from work, we had another conversation about what to do and whether we were breaking up or not, but neither of us had an answer. We stayed together, both apologized to each other later, and continued the relationship. Things went back to how they were until about 3 weeks later. We had a wedding to attend. During the wedding, he started joking about how I shouldn't think about a wedding because I wasn't getting one anyway, and how we were going to break up. The jokes really hurt. I bottled those feelings up, but when we went home the following day, he noticed my mood shift. He asked me to tell him what was bothering me and reassured me that he wasn't planning on breaking up. He said those things to make me feel bad and promised he wouldn't do it again. It's been a week since the wedding incident. I've had the worst anxiety I've felt in years during this week. He has reassured me multiple times that he won't leave me, but I just can't shake the relationship anxiety I feel right now. I don't know how to calm down. He got me coffee one morning, asked to get lunch together even though we work in different locations, and we even had the best sex we've had in years. However, I still don't feel secure. I worry he's about to break up with me, and I also worry that we can't come back from this. I feel hurt by his behavior, although I have voiced this and he apologized. This makes me feel emotionally disconnected from him. I just don't know how I feel anymore. I always had a gut instinct, and until now, it told me that he was the person I was going to marry. Now, my gut instinct is blank. I feel numb. I have no answers, and that is what stresses me out. This is the worst time we've had in our relationship. We've never had fights to such an extent. I don't know if this is just a bad time or if it's signaling the end of our relationship, and it's killing me. It sounds like you're going through a really tough period in your relationship, and it's completely understandable to feel confused and anxious given the circumstances. Relationships can go through rough patches, and sometimes it's hard to differentiate between a temporary issue and something more serious. It's incredibly hurtful, and it's important to take the time you need to heal from this. Hopefully, things will become clearer with time, and you'll find a path forward. My best friend's partner insists on reading our texts, and it's driving me nuts. My name is Emily, I'm 19 years old, and I want to share a story about my best friend Miles and his girlfriend Sarah. Miles and I have been friends since the start of university, about a year ago when we were flatmates. Since then, we've become quite close. Miles and Sarah have been dating for around 2 years now. I've met Sarah a few times and we often contact each other on social media. We get along fine, but I wouldn't really call us friends. Both of us have tried to become more friendly with one another, but for some reason, our efforts seem to fall a bit flat. One of the reasons I think this might be the case is that Sarah may suspect I want her relationship to fail, or that I want to be with Miles romantically. This is absolutely not true. I'm not interested in her boyfriend in that way and have tried to make this as obvious as possible without overdoing it. Miles and I never get mistaken for a couple in public because our body language makes it clear that we're just good friends. I love the guy, but just as a friend. To be fair to Sarah, Miles and I were pretty inseparable during the first year. We did everything together and would talk about each other all the time. I understand why it might have seemed suspicious to her before she met me, especially since she and Miles are in a long-distance relationship and I was seeing him more often than she was. However, I had hoped that once she met me, she would see that it's just a platonic friendship. Whether Miles has said anything to her to make her worried, I have no idea, but I doubt it. Whenever Miles and I are meeting up, Sarah calls him and checks up on him frequently. If he doesn't answer texts quickly, she gets upset. It's a little annoying, but their level of contact is their business. The thing I'm considering mentioning to Miles is the fact that whenever he visits her, all my messages to him get replied to by Sarah. I'm not really concerned about her seeing anything inappropriate in our messages because it really isn't like that. However, I have told Miles a lot of personal information that I wouldn't be comfortable with someone I'm not that close with knowing, like family stuff. These can be seen if she scrolls up on our texts, and I'm now concerned she has done that. Even if I send him the link to a song I think he'd like, Sarah sends a picture of her face and inserts herself into the conversation, often replying on his behalf. It feels accusing and like I'm not to be trusted. I feel babysat and like my privacy is being violated. For the record, I have no problem with the idea of a girlfriend having access to her boyfriend's phone. There shouldn't be anything on there that should be hidden from her, except when it involves other people's personal info or when it interferes with conversations. If I wanted to text her, I would text her. I'm just trying to talk to my buddy. So, am I making a big deal out of nothing? I know I could just not text him while he's hanging out with her, but that feels serious and accusing when I've done nothing inappropriate. I want to talk to Miles about it because I'm uncomfortable, but I don't want to be overdramatic or overstep their relationship boundaries. It's clear she's a bit insecure, and honestly, that's understandable. So, the best thing to do is to accept that currently, communication with him comes with it's a good idea to limit texting and maybe suggest sharing things in person when she's not around. If you make an issue out of this, it could drive a wedge into the friendship, and he's likely to pick his partner over you. My boyfriend makes me feel like I'm just a second thought, especially when it comes to his family. How do I bring up this issue? I feel like I've tried, but it's not working. I am a 28-year-old man and my partner is 25. We have been together for about 6 months, but there's been a consistent issue that makes me feel unimportant. Despite our efforts to plan dates in advance, whether it's 1 to 4 weeks or a little getaway a few hours away, our plans always fall through because something always comes up. He lives with his parents and often has to stay home to watch his 8-year-old sister because his parents decide to go out last minute. It wouldn't bother me as much if it didn't happen all the time or if his parents didn't spontaneously plan trips to different states, cities, or even Mexico for 3-5 days and expect him to go with less than a day's notice. Meanwhile, I can't plan a simple date to the aquarium a month in advance without something coming up. I know he cares about me, but I hate the control his parents have over him. He's 25 and basically has a curfew. I can count only twice when he's actually spent the night with me and didn't leave at 2 or 3 a.m. because it would upset his parents. I've discussed this issue with him before, and he has gotten a bit better, ignoring their constant calls when we are together. They used to call him to come home while we were hanging out, and he would just listen to them without considering my feelings. This hasn't happened since I first brought up the problem, but it still feels like I'm at the bottom of his priority list. I know I also could be better when the issue arises. I get upset and angry, and I can be mean. I know it's not a personal attack on me, but sometimes it feels like it, so I react instinctively. I've tried to point out that his parents have too much control over him, but he argues that he respects them. In my eyes, especially at this age, respect should be a two-way street. The reality is they view him as a child and don't respect him or his time. They even forgot how old he was on his birthday. I know the answer is patience, but I just wish there was more effort from his side. I've also been working on being less reactive when I bring up things that upset me. However, I still feel like such an afterthought most of the time. Recently, he attempted to put his foot down on a 4-day trip to Mexico that his parents planned with just 2 weeks' notice during his work week. He ended up caving an hour before they left and went anyway. We had talked about a trip for ourselves around this time over a month back, but I was once again put on the back burner and our getaway was cancelled because of work and family. I feel like whatever I do, I'm at the bottom of his priority list, if I'm even on it at all. How can I go about addressing this? The way I'm bringing up the issue now doesn't seem to be working. Ultimatums were made for situations like this. If his mom's actions or words are affecting the relationship, it might be time to find a new boyfriend. Compromising is important, but not at the cost of one's well-being. Everyone deserves a partner who respects their feelings and is willing to make changes for the sake of both their futures. How do I stop my partner from yelling at me? My name is Sarah, I'm 24 years old, and today my boyfriend, Mark, who is 27, yelled at me. We were in the car and I was giving him directions. I got distracted from the map because I wanted to take a picture of something interesting. Because of this, we missed a turn and he got really angry. He said some awful things to me, calling me stupid repeatedly and wouldn't stop yelling. At one point, he said I act like I have a disability and accused me of having autism. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed silent for the rest of the car ride home, which lasted an hour. Situations like this seem to happen every time we take a lengthy car ride. A few days ago, during another drive, I was confused about our plans for when we reached our destination. When I tried asking for clarification, he got angry again and threatened to cancel the whole day and go home, despite having plans with our friends. A few months ago, we were on another trip and stopped to get breakfast. I assumed the restaurant would include napkins with our food, but they didn't. When he realized there were no napkins, he got food all over his face and hands and started screaming and blaming me for not getting napkins. I had to give him one of the shirts I packed for the week to clean himself. Every time something like this happens, he keeps bringing it up and makes me feel guilty, calling me useless and incompetent. It's gotten to the point where the thought of going on trips or car rides gives me panic attacks. I would rather stay home because I'm scared I'll regret going anywhere with him. We live together and he has calmed down now, but I know he will bring it up again and make me feel bad. I have tried talking to him about it before, but it feels like a waste of breath because he doesn't think he did anything wrong. He always does it again and then apologizes once he calms down. It's really tiring. Even if I did something wrong, it still feels off and I'm not sure what to do because I want to be able to enjoy my relationship and go places with him. Please help. Need pace. It's heartbreaking to hear that someone is in such an abusive relationship. This kind of behavior is mental, verbal, and emotional abuse, and it often escalates over time. It's crucial to leave safely and break the cycle before it potentially turns physical. Good luck and stay safe. Call My partner is so unhappy and I think I am the cause. The story is long and intricate, but you need all the details to understand where I am standing. My partner has a complex relationship with his parents. I only know the key points and how it affected him mentally while growing up. As of today, he doesn't feel like he has a close relationship with his mum and dad, although his parents seem to think the opposite. It's very much like the whole trio is ignoring the obvious trauma, but no one is willing to be the first to admit how they're feeling. There have been countless times where my partner explained to me that the best thing his parents could do for him would be to cut all connections and just leave him be. I don't judge his views and sympathize with him. However, he comes from a culture that values family, and being the only son, he feels a strong responsibility for them, no matter how messy or difficult the relationship is for him to maintain. We spent the last 8 years of our relationship happily living in London. It was honestly like a fairy tale now that I look back on it. He was away from his family, and I was living in a tiny apartment with the man of my dreams. Nothing could bring us down. 2 years ago, we hit a point where we felt like our time in London had come to an end. Prices went up, my job closed their store, etc. It just felt right, you know. Our big end goal was always to move to the country where his parents are, Australia, get married, have kids, buy a house, etc. That move proved to be our downfall. My partner feels responsible for his parents, despite the fact that every time we see them, the air is heavy and tense. Moving to Australia meant we had to live in the same city as his parents and stay in one of their apartments to save enough money to move to another city, hopefully more towards the east. When we landed in Australia, everything went wrong. We were forced to delay moving into a separate apartment due to some paperwork issues, so we had to huddle up in their tiny apartment for over a month. During that time, I had never seen my partner so emotionally closed off and quiet. He grows another layer of skin and pushes everyone away, including me. He never hurts me or puts his hands on me, but he shuts me out. He pretends everything is okay and smiles through the pain, even though I can see him visibly uncomfortable. The stress got to him so much that he developed painful shingles. We finally got to see the apartment we were meant to live in, and it was nearly unlivable. There was mold in the bathroom, broken fans and exhausts causing moisture to get trapped in the wood, and the carpet was ancient and stank. The whole situation only added more pain and discomfort. The renovation took a toll on both of us, but we just wanted to push through and get out. Eventually, the stress of the move and seeing my partner so unhappy got to me too. One night, I woke up with vertigo and started throwing up. 2 years later, I am now unemployed and struggling to perform daily tasks without getting dizzy and sick. My case would make a whole separate post, but what you need to know is that I can't sit at my desk for more than 30 minutes and definitely can't jump on a plane for a 20-hour flight. It just won't happen. 2 years later, after my loving and caring partner put his feelings aside to care for me and send me to all the doctors possible, I think the weight of the world is finally getting to him. He took a full-time job to pay for my medical bills and provide for me since I can't do anything. He looks after the house and our new cat when I am too sick. He has to deal with his trauma and his parents while also making sure I am alright. The last 2 years honestly scared me because I never thought I could be this unhappy. Seeing my otherwise very positive partner suddenly turn solemn and quiet made me question things. If I were not sick, I would have told him to pack our things and abandon this plan, to go back to London and be closer to my family, with whom he had bonded much better than his own, to do anything for his own health and forget his parents. But we know that until I get better, which no one knows when or if it will happen, we are stuck here. He is not a let's talk about feelings type of guy. He lets me address my own all day long, but when I try to get an ounce of his true feelings, I have to crack him like an oyster. He reassures me it isn't my fault, that we will get out of this town and move to a different one when things get better, but in the last 2 days he has gone quiet again. Am I selfish for getting upset over it? How do you deal with a partner that just won't address his feelings until he breaks? Sure, please provide the comments you want to be combined. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.